I call the Thursday, January 12th, 2017 Historic Preservation Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Here.
Commissioner Lucas.
Here.
Commissioner Olson. Commissioner Derrick. Commissioner Hendrickson.
Here.
Commissioner Barvian.
Here.
Commissioner Rapp. Commissioner Hagan.
Here.
Chairman Bortel.
Here. Let's rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm seeking a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'm also seeking a motion to approve the minutes from our December 15th, 2017 Historic Preservation Commission meeting.
I'd like to make that motion.
A second.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Commissioners' comments, I have just one. On March the 9th, it's a Thursday, Anthony Rubano is coming to do some commissioner training in probably Community Room A. We've reserved A because we sent a letter out on Monday of this week to all the owners of properties along Lockport Street in the National Register District that they could attend and get more information about what the 20% rehabilitation tax credit is all about and how Anthony reviews a building, interior and exterior, and comes to his conclusions. So Anthony has agreed to come, and so we sent the letter out to all the property owners. In fact, one of them called the office today, and I got the email message, and I called back and left a message for Mr. Donalfo in Oak Lawn. He owns Daddy-O's and Sovereign, right? Yes.
Yep.
So I left him a message.
Okay.
I also sent an email to Will County Historic Preservation Commission, the chair and their staff person, and also to Joliet and also to Oswego, inviting them if they would like to come. A lot of the other local HPCs do not get an opportunity to listen or meet with Anthony, and since he's going to be here, I thought that might be something that they would appreciate. So they've been invited. Also, I talked to Anthony and mentioned it to Bill Habiger. So if you're interested, I think on the 9th, maybe around 4:30, we'll meet Anthony at the Opera House dining room, and we'll have dinner there, say from 4:30 to 6:30. I'll go over and see if we can reserve the room on along Illinois Street. And our meeting will be 7, so we should be done there by 6:30. And Anthony and I invited Bill Habiger. He said he would come. And if any of the commissioners want to come, we'll mention it again if we have a February meeting. But that's for your information. The other thing is that there will be a meeting here at 5 o'clock on February the 5th, I believe, for a LDDC meeting. We're going to meet about the manual for design guidelines for historic properties for 2 hours. So if you can come to that, that'd be great. The LDDC people will have their meeting, and you can, if you're not on that committee, you can come. Also tonight before you leave, there's a binder for you, and on the village's website there's a document that you can use to look at your the book that we're going to try and create. The application, I believe, will be mailed in tomorrow for the CLG application to do this book. It's a 70-30 grant from IHPA and the National Park Service. That's all I have for comments. I believe Commissioner Hendrickson has something.
Can I get a clarification?
Sure.
Commissioner Boda? You mentioned February 5th.
Is that a Thursday?
That's Super Bowl Sunday.
All right, then whatever is the Thursday before, the 3rd?
Would be the 2nd.
The 2nd. Okay, February 2nd. February 2nd.
Yeah, thank you. The LDDC it's really done a great job, I think. I sit there on that commission and subcommittee. But I just wanted to report that the public outreach, we have done a lot of cross work. In the banking, they do cross-sell. We've done some cross ideas. And some of the things that Michael has just mentioned now with this meeting for the building owners is really truly part of public outreach, but it fits nicely into the niche of the LDDC. So I just wanted to let for the record that the public outreach is still active, and since I am chair of that committee, that we do keep the thoughts in mind for meeting with the public, and that's basically it. We had meetings scheduled for that subcommittee. Should have been, I think, this evening earlier, and I asked Marilee to go ahead and just let me make an announcement because we really had not been active in that subcommittee per se. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Whoa. We only have one public here, so Happy New Year to you, sir. Okay, we're going back. We're going to old business. This is case number 1746-1208, 16 certificate of appropriateness for 24215 West Lockport Street. You'll remember we discussed this at our last meeting in December. And basically, this is to discuss the letter of agreement that was created basically for this meeting and for the applicant and Shannon Dames and Remax. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the commission may recall, this case or this request was before the commission in December. It's a very unusual circumstance wherein the applicant had been working with the IHPA and received the state's blessing on a federal tax credit program and proceeded to construction without coming through the local certificate of appropriateness review. So in December, we scrambled a little bit to get them scheduled. Appreciated the commission's coming together on short notice there before the holidays. Didn't have really complete plans or information from the applicant. We were able to get some details from the state shortly before the meeting in December, but the cake really wasn't fully baked, to use a metaphor. And so the commission wasn't given the appropriate information to act on the recommendation for a certificate of appropriateness in December. So thanks to Chairman Bortles' leadership, he has reached out to the IHPA and clarified some information from that time and taken the liberty of drafting a certificate of appropriateness document as a working document or for your consideration. But just to reiterate, the building, the home here, the Zimmerman House, as we refer to it, it's on the south side of Lockport Street, just east of James Street. The project has moved forward with the removal and replacement of the exterior siding with a composite material. At the December meeting, there was some uncertainty relative to the materials that were proposed for the dormers. The applicant did propose the composite material and as well a kind of a fish scale accent material above the windows and the dormers. That was a point of discussion in December. Likewise, there are some shutters proposed that were, there was, I think, a lack of consensus or some concern on the part of staff and perhaps on the part of the commissioners and a few other details. So subsequent to the December meeting, Chairman Bortles clarified with Mr. Rubano at IHPA that there was not specific support for the fish scale material in what the IHPA reviewed. That was not a focus of his review. And so I think if there's concern locally that we would have the latitude to make a recommendation, and it would be staff's recommendation that the dormer material be consistent with the composite siding that's used on the predominance of the structure there. Specific to the shutters, staff is not opposed to the use of shutters. I think it's worthwhile to evaluate whether there were shutters in the building originally, and if shutters are proposed, perhaps a more conventional shutter could be implemented, absent the tulip cutouts that are proposed here. So staff's happy to work with the applicant to provide some examples locally of a shutter that might be more appropriate to the Lockport Street setting. There was some discussion of the proposed railing on the front of the home, and that was not present originally. There have been some changes. You can see here the landscaping that was, even in this more recent photo, was removed. The applicant installed an accessible sidewalk to provide access to the rear of the building where the accessible entrance is. And due to the grade changes, that railing is now appropriate per building code standards, and so staff would not oppose the addition of that railing. And then I think there was some discussion on the dimensions of the barge boards that are proposed. Given the condition of the original barge boards, I think there is no opposition to the installation of the new boards that are of a slightly larger diameter. And then lastly, there's extensive discussion regarding the proposed monument sign. At this time, the applicant has not submitted any additional details, so staff would propose that consideration of the monument sign be deferred, and that would require a subsequent consideration based on a design that we feel is more in keeping with the village's standards of the sign code, as well as the appropriate historic considerations. So at this time, staff would welcome discussion of the proposed certificate of appropriateness document, and both Mary Lee and I have pens at the ready for any modifications that you may suggest. But beyond that, we would be hopeful that you'd be in position to recommend or make a recommendation relative to the certificate of appropriateness.
My conversation with Anthony about all of this was that he was happy to hear from the applicant that if you go back to the original picture of the house, he was happy that the applicant was willing to forego the two windows where the garage originally was, where it doesn't show that in this picture. It just shows you like the two windows have always been there. They were happy to go back to have it as a garage door look, even though it is higher than what it was normally would have been. But he said, in keeping with the same level as the windows and the door in the other part of the house, he felt that that would be fine since they were willing to go with the look. And so that was fine with him. He overlooked, when I mentioned the fish scales, he looked at the picture again and he says, "Oh yeah, I just didn't see those." But no, they're not appropriate. And when I mentioned to him about the revolving light on the lighthouse in the front yard, he basically said, well, it's not Nantucket, so it's not appropriate. But if they want to put it on a sign, on a flat board sign hanging from a post, that would be fine with IHPA. But a lighthouse replica with a revolving light, he thought was not appropriate for the district or for the house. So he and I talked, and I created this letter of agreement. The first couple paragraphs basically is to let everybody know that if they come in and say, well, you let this other people do it, well, then Jonathan will just say, well, the letter of agreement was that if IHPA had known that it had been wood siding, which
It was.
when he was here and we did the tour of the Gourmet Junction building, unbeknownst to us, he drove down there and looked at the house and immediately called the owner applicant and said, this is wood siding, and it has to be wood siding. And they said, well, we've already ordered the new siding, and so he called National Park Service. And as long as it met the same standards, the same reveal, the same look, it'll be fine. They would allow it. But he says, I was given the wrong information. So that was the reason for the little portion at the beginning of the letter of agreement, so that down the road, someone says, well, you let this happen to this building. It was just, fool us once, but not twice. So basically, that's the reason. Question?
Mike, question for you. On the proposed letter of agreement, first page.
Yep.
The, right at the bottom of the page, the last full sentence. Allow the use of the new siding provided it was the same. Is the word size supposed to be in after the word same?
Same as the original.
Same size? This is different siding, right?
It's the different siding, but it's the same
profile.
Style
same
or
profile, the same
Texture. kind of.
dimension. I don't know if it's the same dimension, because what they showed us here and what I saw on the ground was more flexible. What they were putting on was a lot more flexible than what the little piece they showed, but maybe it's, if you get one 8 feet long, maybe it becomes more flexible. I don't know. It didn't look like to me that the stuff I saw sitting on the ground when we first called this to our attention, that it was the same, was that thick as the piece he showed us, but maybe it was.
You may want to add a qualifier in there, same profile or something like that. So if anybody's reading it later, they don't think it's, that we thought it was the same siding as the original.
Well, if you want, we could put the same reveal. Is that the correct term,
Yeah.
Mr. Hagan?
Yeah, that would work.
The same reveal.
Actually, it should be composition siding too. After consultation with the National Park Service, they agreed to allow the use of new composition siding, provided it was the same reveal as the original.
Okay, that'd be fine. I'll come over in the morning and sign that.
Did they, is there a, something proposed in lieu of the fish scales on the dormers?
Siding.
Same siding.
Oh,
on
just
the-
siding?
Siding, like,
Okay,
in other words.
because
the
it doesn't
window-
say that in
The
here.
windows will be sided, the dormers will be sided the same as, the rest
Okay.
of the building.
Are there fish scales up there currently?
No,
Nothing now.
nothing now.
I drove by there today. Of course, I was trying to keep my eyes on the road too. but-
Tyvek up there now.
Oh, okay. It looked like, to me, maybe there was something up there, but.
work on it after that.
They stopped work
December
after our
meeting.
meeting. They haven't done, they were on the roof, I don't know why, but they were on the roof last week when it was 7 or 8 degrees outside. 2 guys were up there on the roof. I don't know what they were doing. I didn't spend, but they weren't applying anything, so. But they'll use the blue siding on the sides and above the windows and on the edges of the dormer.
And do we feel that that handrail is like historically appropriate? It looks like a very standard, modern, just 2x2.
Well, Anthony seemed to think whatever met code in the village, the
okay.
handrail would be appropriate because of the new porch. And
Right. Yeah, I understand the need for it, but I don't know how closely they were trying to kind of meet the historical, they went out of their way to put fish scales and the tulip shutters, but
well, if you want to fine tune the porch rail, fine tune it. What would you like, Commissioner Hagan? You're the, what would you, 2x2 slats?
Yeah, that looks like 2x2 balustrades there.
right.
And the height is gonna have to be by code.
Just gonna be a square profile.
Yeah.
Square profile, and then the handrail, the railing would be,
It's like a 2x6 or something like
something,
that.
would you want
Yeah.
it,
No, I'm just wondering if there was something, any thought given to it, something of that era, of
mean
this
more-
style. something
More of a turned balustrade as opposed to a simple,
I guess I don't have a suggestion for it. I'm just wondering if there was any thought given to this one. It looks like it was just kind of, put on like a modern day railing, but maybe we don't want to be that picky about it.
Well, the columns are basically boxed at the bottom, right? It looks like.
Right.
This is a square one here. That's a square one there. I think that might be a square one.
I think they're all square. I was just,
Then that's okay.
I was looking at the base,
Yeah,
the
that's just
base
a-
part was the,
Okay.
Like if it was a Victorian house, you'd have kind of a Victorian railing, or a handrail. Like,
40s.
That's reasonably appropriate, I think.
I wouldn't
I
use
didn't-
turnings on this.
No.
No, I wouldn't.
I mean, that's not appropriate
Right.
for Cape Cod, but
So a 2x2,
okay.
by 2s, whatever.
2x2,
2x2.
standard.
2x2 standards at whatever height is code for the house. And I didn't mention the window box, but I suppose if they want to put a window box there under the window on the stones portion, that's fine. I didn't address that, but it looks appropriate. And as far as the shutters, Anthony was happy with whatever shutters they wanted to use without the tulips, whether it was a Craftsman look. And I suspect these are more like a Craftsman look without the cutouts. Or if they wanted to go with just a regular, shutter with the horizontal slats.
Last meeting, we talked about louver shutters or a more simple Craftsman style without the flourish of the tulip
And
cutouts.
I kinda like the Craftsman look that they show here without the tulip. I think it looks appropriate for the house, even though there weren't shutters originally. But Anthony said that these types of houses in the Midwest and out east normally had shutters with them, and this would be appropriate as far as IHPA and the National Park Service was concerned. The colors, whatever they like, without the tulips. I think the house looks smart. I mean, it looks like it's a smart-looking rendition. So,
Well, you've got yourself covered here. Anthony believes the shutter is stylistically subtle, would be more appropriate. And basically, we could even stick in there that if they would just check with Jonathan before the shutters were put up, that's something that's, a minor thing that is almost portable.
Yeah.
That's fine the way it is.
any other comments, questions?
Well, I just, my only thoughts on this project, I became part of this commission as this project came online. And I lost a good friendship as a result of siding and windows. It's ironic that ultimately the siding was changed and so were some of the windows. So I thought in the future I'll be
Yeah.
more attentive to.
Well, the
questions
original
of siding.
application from the Zimmerman family itself, we allowed them to put almost anything they wanted around three sides of the house. It was the front that was the,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of siding on the front, so. Jonathan, before I forget, if you'd be kind enough to notify the commission when the sign comes up to the whatever department, wherever that's gonna be discussed, I would like to be involved in that, at least attend and perhaps, thank you.
And I found in my records today, August 1st, 2013 was when we first discussed this property,
Yeah.
when it was Chuck and Kathy Zimmerman as the applicant for the siding and the windows. The windows were the big problem.
Yeah.
We allowed them to use windows
Three sides.
on the east, west, and south, but not on the front. So the windows on this house now are the original windows on the front, and the door is staying the same. The door will not be ADA code because that's at the rear, but they're keeping the same opening, the same historic opening. IHPA approved that, and so did the Park Service, and the village The village was the first one to agree to that, to allow the ADA entrance to be at the rear,
Okay.
okay? So, seeking a motion to approve the letter of agreement with the aforementioned changes that we will make tomorrow and that I will sign, and then Jonathan will get a hold of the applicant to come in and sign and pass this. This will go to the village board at their February 6th meeting, I believe. But I suspect if you get the applicants to come in, they could probably continue, because there's no reason that the village board will not approve this, since we have one of the trustees sitting here knowing what we are talking about, so I'm seeking a motion to approve the letter of agreement as outlined and amended.
I will so move to accept this.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
And, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, so that's, it looks nice. It's a nice looking, it'll be a
Good looking.
kind of like a nice looking house as a gateway into the downtown area from the west.
I think it still pops.
I think it pops too. I think it'll pop with the red door and the,
Especially with that sign.
especially with a new sign. With a. So the only other quick thing that we'll talk about is the, we will be applying tomorrow for the, CLG application from the state of Illinois and the National Park Service. We'll probably hear sometime in April. So we'll have a meeting February 2nd, and we're going to work on that. So, if there's not anything else, staff, you have anything? And I don't know if there's anything going on in February. We'll just wait and see. There will be something coming in March. There'll be a new landmark designation application in March for us.
Which one will we have done?
There'll be a landmark nomination for the Quality Hill House at the corner of Lockport and Eastern Avenue that is owned by the Plainfield Historical Society. So I'm seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.